How do we get happy? How do you live a life where you're just stoked, you're feeling good, everything's kind of working for you, no matter actually what happens, you have a positive mindset, quote unquote, and you're just feeling good every day. Like, how do you design yourself? How do you create yourself? And how do you design your life such that that is your experience? Let's talk about that today. So, first thing is, this is something that I practice every day. And often I look at, when I work with people, I look at how have I achieved what I'm helping them to achieve. That's important to me as a person and as a helper, as a psychologist, a psychotherapist. How do I be the example that I'm teaching others to be? Because I don't think it's actually cool or in some ways even in integrity to teach people things that we haven't done ourselves, right? So what I'm about to share with you is a formula that I've used to create an extraordinarily happy, satisfying life that I create every day. And it's something that I'm reverse engineering and looking back at. I'm a monk. That plays a significant part in it, actually, because I've cut off a lot of different parts of quote unquote life that bring happiness to people, like meat and alcohol and drugs and sex. So I found a very pure way, an internal way of creating fulfillment and happiness from within that takes some discipline. And here's the formula. The first thing is to get uncomfortable and to make yourself do things that are uncomfortable every day. Now, if you're saying, I am uncomfortable all the time, then what we need to practice is getting comfortable by relaxing or by becoming active. And now, what do I mean by that? Meaning, if you're going and doing all the time, find ways, design your life, discipline yourself to just chill and relax, right? And the other side of that is if you're too chill and you're like, and I know I need to do this, I know I need to do that, get more active. If you need more energy, if you actually are stressed out, being more active in the right kind of ways can help you. So all of this is to say is that you want to practice getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Now, it may not feel like that is what you need to do, is relax more or get active more, which is fine. But one of the things that I've found about life is that it's always telling us what we need, both from the inside and the outside. So look for yourself right now, because almost all of us know that we need to do some things and we don't want to do them, but we know we need to. This is life telling us to take certain steps, and that could be relaxing, which is uncomfortable. It could be becoming more active, which is uncomfortable. But do things that are uncomfortable, because if you're not happy and if you're not peaceful and if you're not excited, if you're not fulfilled, then something in you and then in your life, usually one before the other, needs to shift. And the way that we know that we are shifting is that if we're getting uncomfortable. Now, if you can get comfortable being uncomfortable, that is one of the absolute keys to living a happy, fulfilled life. So number one, get uncomfortable, and ultimately practice getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Number two, spend time doing nothing. Don't do anything. Don't listen to music. Don't listen to a podcast. Don't listen to your phone. Don't look at your phone. Don't do anything. Because, why? Because peace is a prerequisite to happiness, right? So we have to talk about, how do you find peace, right? You can find peace by doing nothing. For a lot of people, that's very aggravating, or in my case, it was very boring. And some friends of mine, actually, it's very anxiety provoking, right? Now, all of those judgments, they're really judgments, but all of those experiences, we could say, are barriers to finding happiness, because if we don't find peace, we're not going to find happiness, right? Happiness you can find in the outside world, but it's fleeting. You can have a relationship, or you can go out to a nice dinner, or you go, like me, you go to a yoga class, right? That makes me happy. But underpinning all of that is a sense of peace that we're really after. So how do we find peace? The way that we find peace is through acceptance. Now, that might be accepting an aspect of ourselves if it's uncomfortable temporarily. It might be accepting an experience or a situation outside in our world. And acceptance is really just a lack of resistance, right? And also acceptance of an uncomfortable or unpleasant or some situation in the outside world of us doesn't mean that we're accepting it, not going to do anything about it. But accepting it means that we're accepting it for how it is at this moment of time, because it's a paradox. The more that we can accept something, the more that it's possible to change, right? Same goes within us. So if we feel a certain way that we don't appreciate, that we don't like, we're uncomfortable, we're angry, we're frustrated, whatever it is, accept it. And we know that we will have accepted it when we're not resisting it anymore. So all of this, again, looping back to number 2, spend time doing nothing. If you spend time doing nothing, you will find eventually peace. There's a trend now in the United States called float tanks. Highly recommend getting this experience. You sit in there bare naked in super salty water, so your body just floats, and then they close all the doors and there's no lights, and it's a deprivation tank. The first time I did this, it took me about 30 minutes before I could relax, and I saw how wound up my nervous system was until I could, in this expression, find peace, right? So spend time doing nothing. Number 3, spend time doing conscious action. So be clear about what is driving your actions. So many of us don't really know what emotion or what energy is driving choices that we make. And the more that we can become clear about what is driving our choices or driving our desire, the more that we can consciously create our life and make choices that are actually going to help us. A lot of us, including myself sometimes, we do things because we are avoiding feeling something else. For me, I've talked about this a lot. It's classic. It's boredom. It's depression. It's anxiety, right? So historically, I would just do a lot, which looked like I was living a healthy lifestyle, but it was all driven by a desire to avoid feeling something. It wasn't driven by a desire to express joy, to experience happiness. In some ways it was, but it was more about not wanting to feel that. Once I, and people that I've taught and guided, start accepting that there's this uncomfortable aspect of themselves that they don't want to face, okay, accept it and then do something. There's a sense, what's beautiful about this is that there's a sense of heart and a sense of vulnerability that comes with our action. It's beautiful. And then you start to unlock this fulfillment inside of us because we're not avoiding, we're not running from something physically or literally anymore, right? We're bringing it with us, you could say, and opening more and more into our hearts, which is the healing aspect of ourselves that allows us to feel better ultimately, right? So if they're avoiding something, look at what it is. Open to it. Be vulnerable in our own hearts around what it is that we might be avoiding by doing. So get uncomfortable, spend time doing nothing, and spend time doing conscious action, and you will eventually start to feel happy.